And thanks for having me here, and also Alex for being like a very early supporter for us. So yeah, at Maneva, we're building video to action AI agents for manufacturing, and my name is Ray. As Alex mentioned, I previously worked at DeepMind for doing Google DeepMind for doing AI research there in real-world robotics, to now, becoming a CEO and a founder of this AI company that's serving manufacturing. And I thought I'll just share just some early lessons, but as kind of Rob mentioned and others, like we're in very early stage, lots to figure out. So hopefully everybody can take it as more of like a data point more than anything in what we went through. So three things I'll talk about is that one is just like choosing our market, the industry, and then the ICP that we cared about. The second around the core technology and how we kind of had our mindset about B2B AI platforms. And third, in actually going out and selling to manufacturers, which is always fun. So one, I just want to kick it off by saying, the world of physical operations accounts for 60% of U.S. GDP, and I believe it's about 40% of global GDP. And we just thought that manufacturing was this part of massive overlooked market that has great opportunity. And the inception of the idea was almost as simple as thinking, well, if you took something like a video AI from a self-driving car and give it to manufacturers, what would happen? And of course, now, we have this major tailwinds in terms of rebuilding manufacturing and reshoring, which has been a critical topic for everybody's minds. And it's a bit coincidental, but I also use Uber here as one of the examples because when we were trying to justify why we would go out and build AI for manufacturing, which wasn't the most obvious industry, we were also thinking about how like Uber, when the iPhone first came out, nobody expected the transportation industry to be the one that's going to be disrupted the most. But Uber happened to be the biggest outcome from the iPhone platform. And of course, it combined, 3G, GPS, and software, and bringing all that to mobile technology. But I think it also has to do with the fact that it combined the world of bits and atoms. And it was tackling an industry that was quite antiquated and far left behind when it comes to tech adoption. And we thought about it in a very similar way. We still do that. Probably the biggest outcome of AI is not going to be the most obvious. It's going to be in these kind of industries where it's only brought forward because of AI. And my hope is that it's going to be something that brings in the world of bits and atoms together. So today we have our product called Video to Action AI Agents. It's essentially where you can look at these kind of chocolates or any kind of manufacturing products, and we're able to help out with quality. We're able to help out with ensuring safety and other type of machine monitoring systems as well. And I think Alec kind of alluded as well, but I don't know if anybody knows Laura Secord chocolates. Yeah, that's theirs, and that's what we're actually checking for them. They're a great Canadian manufacturer. And we've broken down our product into two different categories. One is called Vita, and the other called Alice. But really what I want to get across with this slide is that we had to build out a cohesive ecosystem that offered many different values, like foreign object detection and machine monitoring, workflow efficiency, that manufacturers cared about as a broad spectrum before we were able to really sell this kind of platform to a mid-market or enterprise level client. So, we had to build out an entire platform rather than just a point solution. And with that said, what we realized might be pretty obvious, but manufacturers care a lot about ROI. So that's always been our pitch that we focus on. How do we help these folks, gain efficiency, save money, improve safety? And also, I think Michael mentioned as well in terms of how to, go closer to the customer. We found that our customers cares about us coming to the factory and saying hi. So we just incorporate that into our sales cycle, and that was a very important part. And we really just want to focus on talking to customers as much as possible and really just solving their problems. So I'll just add this part here, which is that when it comes to, I think somebody mentioned it as well in terms of like, what does AI mean for me? And that's a question that everyone is asking. And that's been a big driver of how we position ourselves for manufacturers as well. And we ask them like, what are you thinking about when it comes to what AI means for you? And we want to be their AI partner in driving ROI and answering that question. And I'll just end off with just one thing. I think I love, Rob, your comment about passion and so on. And coming from where I used to work at DeepMind, we think a lot about solving a root node problem, which if you solve that problem, it can actually unlock a whole bunch of different things down the road. For us, for personally and the company, our focus was thinking that, does anybody here know Bessemer process? Oh, okay, there's some. So that's like the better way of making steel that came out like 100 years ago that changed the world, that built U.S. Steel, that built all the steel industry that we know of. And what we had a conviction in is that in the next 10, 20 years, the next way of manufacturing better steel, better wood, better different products, is going to be discovered by AI, right? And we do think that's a root node problem. So those are just some of the things that really drive us every day to go, go into these factories, sleep in these factories, and and work together with our customers. So yeah, thanks.
I'm going to jump in with one quick question. I know at the beginning you fired a bunch of customers. Why did you do that?
Sorry, can I say again?
You fired a bunch of customers at the beginning.
I fired the first customers, you mean?
Yeah, you fired like at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Why did you fire customers?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we had this broad understanding of the manufacturing industry that like, hey, everybody should be utilizing our technology. But in the same way that like some manufacturers were quite far ahead when it comes to tech adoption. Let's say, aerospace or pharmaceutical or semiconductors. So today, a lot of our customer base are in like food production, wood production, steel production, plastic production, what we call typically high volume manufacturing. And honestly, just understanding that big number of saying, oh, manufacturing is a big market wasn't enough. We had to go into the factories, understand the processes and the problems that they have, and tailor our event platform towards that. So that's a good question. Yeah.
One more question, and then we'll let Jason wrap it up. There's a question back there.
All the way at the top. Thanks. So you mentioned the background at Waterloo and Google DeepMind. I presume you didn't have any manufacturing background. How did you acquire that? And that's a general question for founders breaking in and disrupting and bringing innovation to new industries. How do you acquire that? How do you build a team? How do you learn about problems in a space that you have never actually worked before?
That is a very good question, and it's something that I still struggle to today and always think about. And I think it's similar to what Michael mentioned about lunch and learn. But for me, I actually grew up in like a small, tiny town in Alberta. So I grew up like welding and like fixing semi trucks and all that. So for me, this industry was kind of near and dear to my heart. Even though I didn't work in manufacturing, I did not have issues going to chat with these folks and so on. But in terms of getting our early customers, it was like really just literally just showing up at the plant. Like, and I didn't. Well, I don't know if that's unusual, but at least I felt comfortable enough to just literally go and knock on the door and say, hey, like, I'm just, I came from Waterloo or Google, and then I'm just curious about your processes. So, but I think the one is I felt very comfortable talking to our customer base, which I think is important. But the second thing was that I always just went in there, and we still do today, with a learning mindset. We're just asking like, hey, how does your process work? We're trying to hear and learn rather than trying to teach them anything or sell something. And I think that mindset still extends to today when we're selling to different customers in the U.S. and Canada. That just learning mindset has been super helpful.
Thanks so much. Let's get a round of applause.